Hello, my name is Pastor Kris Kollar. I'm the pastor of Pleasant Valley Lutheran Church near Malabar Farm State Park and St. Paul Lutheran Church in Lucas, Ohio. Greetings. We're reading through the Bible with commentary. We are in the book of 2 Kings. We are at the end of the book of 2 Kings, and we'll finish it in today's session with chapter 24 and 25. We've been hearing about how the northern kingdom was already deported by the Assyrians and are gone because the Assyrians settled them into places far, far away, and basically they stopped having their identity. The southern kingdom, Judah, has managed to stave off the Assyrians by giving them a lot of money. But they've also been really struggling because Egypt is really starting to struggle, and now the Babylonians have come and taken over from the Assyrians. And so now the Babylonians are threatening, and they are also trying to give money to the Babylonians, but it's not going to last very long. And we read about King Josiah, who was a very good king, but then after he died, there were actually several sons of his, one of which was Jehoiakim, was the one that we heard, and Jehoahaz. So Jehoahaz was evil, and he gave a lot of money to Egypt. But then his brother? I'm trying to go back to where we left off in the last session in chapter 23. But the Pharaoh Necho made, I'm in chapter 23, verse 31. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hamutal, daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, just as his ancestors had done. Pharaoh Necho confined him at Riblah in the land of Hamath so that he might not reign in Jerusalem, and imposed tribute on the land of 100 talents of silver, that's a lot, and a talent of gold. Pharaoh Necho made Eliakim, son of Josiah, king in place of his father, Josiah, and changed his name to Jehoiakim. But he took Jehoahaz away. He came to Egypt and died there. Jehoiakim gave the silver and the gold to Pharaoh, but he taxed the land in order to meet Pharaoh's demand for money. He exacted the silver and the gold from the people of the land, and all according to their assessment, to give it to Pharaoh Necho. So Jehoiakim was basically picked by the Pharaoh to be the king. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zebidah, daughter of Pedaiah of Rumah. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, just as all his ancestors had done. Chapter 24. In his days, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came up. Jehoiakim became his servant for 3 years. So by being his servant, that means he's a vassal king. He says, okay, we recognize that you're like the emperor, and I will rule my people, but you will rule me. So he's underneath Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. But then he turned and rebelled against him. Verse 2, the Lord sent against him bands of the Chaldeans, bands of the Arameans, bands of the Moabites, and bands of the Ammonites. He sent them against Judah to destroy it, according to the word of the Lord that he spoke by his servants the prophets. Surely this came upon Judah at the command of the Lord to remove them out of his sight, for the sins of Manasseh, for all that he had committed, and also for the innocent blood that he had shed, for he filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, and the Lord was not willing to pardon. Now the rest of the deeds of Jehoiakim and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Judah? So Jehoiakim slept with his ancestors. That means he passed away. Then his son Jehoiachin, very close name, succeeded him. The king of Egypt did not come again out of his land, for the king of Babylon had taken over all that belonged to the king of Egypt, from the Wadi of Egypt to the river Euphrates. So Babylon is becoming so powerful that while Egypt is still a country and has been a country for literally thousands and thousands and thousands of years, Babylon is ruling everything. So Jehoiakim probably thought that Egypt would support them, and Egypt did not support them. Babylon came over, ran over the entire area, including the entire Israelite area, but also all the way down into Egypt, was completely taken over by the Babylonians. Verse 8. Jehoiachin was 18 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Nehushta, daughter of Elnathan of Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, just as his father had done. Verse 10. At that time the servants of King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came up to Jerusalem, and the city was besieged. King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came to the city while his servants were besieging it. King Jehoiachin of Judah gave himself up to the king of Babylon, himself, his mother, his servants, his officers, and his palace officials. The king of Babylon took him prisoner in the 8th year of his reign. Verse 13, he carried off all the treasures of the house of the Lord and the treasures of the king's house. He cut in pieces all of the vessels of gold in the temple of the Lord which King Solomon of Israel had made. All this as the Lord had foretold. He carried away all Jerusalem, all the officials, all the warriors, 10,000 captives, all the artisans and the smiths. No one remained except the poorest people of the land. He carried away Jehoiachin to Babylon, the king's mother, the king's wives, his officials, and the elite of the land. He took into captivity from Jerusalem to Babylon. The king of Babylon brought captive to Babylon all the men of valor, 7,000, the artisans and the smiths, 1,000, all of them strong and fit for war. The king of Babylon made Mattaniah, Jehoiachin's uncle, king in his place, and changed his name to Zedekiah. So King Nebuchadnezzar has come in, has taken over, has deported thousands of people, and much of this book and other books were written while they were in Babylon. And the Jewish people, eventually we will hear about them coming back. In the books of Ezra and Nehemiah, they will come back, they will rebuild the wall and rebuild the temple. But not everybody came back. Many Jewish people remained in Babylon. In fact, they remained there for a very long time, like thousands of years. And when Israel became a nation, there were a bunch of Jewish people who were still in the area over where Babylon had been, who then came into Israel. They're known as the Ashkenazi, I'm not going to pronounce it correctly, Ashkenazi Jews, and they have a very different perspective because it's very Eastern, but they were there from when they were deported. Some of them came back, some of them never did until literally the 21st century or the 20th century. So now the king Nebuchadnezzar has picked a person to be the king, which was Mattaniah, and he's changed his name, which just shows the rule that he has. If you have power over something or someone, then you're the one that gives it the name. Verse 18, Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hamutal, daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, just as Jehoiakim had done. And if I correctly, Zedekiah was basically Jehoiakim's brother and Jehoiachin's uncle. Indeed, Jerusalem and Judah so angered the Lord that he expelled them from his presence. Chapter 25. Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon, which is never going to be a good idea. And in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, on the 10th day of the month, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came with all his army against Jerusalem and laid siege to it. They built siege works all against it all around. So the city was besieged until the 11th year of King Zedekiah. So apparently when we get to Ezekiel and some of the other books, we're going to hear Ezekiel prophesying. There's basically some people who said, oh, Egypt will help us, we should just stick with Egypt and rebel against Babylon, and others like Jeremiah who said, no, you can't really, and you're going to get punished and deported, and you really need to just accept the fact that you're going to Babylon, and you're not going to see it, but you're going to go there. Verse 4. Then a breach was made in the city wall. The king with all the soldiers fled by night by the way of the gate between the two walls, by the king's garden, though the Chaldeans were all around the city. They went in the direction of the Arabah. But the army of the Chaldeans pursued the king and overtook him in the plains of Jericho. All his army was scattered, deserting him. Then they captured the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon at Riblah, who passed sentence on him. They slaughtered the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes. So one of his punishments was to have to watch his sons getting killed. Then put out the eyes of Zedekiah. They bound him in fetters and took him to Babylon, which apparently Ezekiel had prophesied that he would go to Babylon, but that he would never get to see Babylon. So they killed his sons in front of him, then they took out of his eyes, and then they shipped him off to Babylon. Verse 8, in the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, which was the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, Nebuzaradan, the captain of the bodyguard, a servant of the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem. So what year would that have been? They like to figure these things. The scholars love to figure it out. But there wasn't exactly a uniform calendar back then. So you from the rule of the king Nebuchadnezzar, from when his rule started, is how they count it. So in this case, it was the 5th month, 7th day, 19th year of the king of Babylon, King Nebuchadnezzar's rule. And I do not see a footnote saying what year that would have been, but I believe it was around 587. Oh, here we go. And the 37th year it was 560. So yeah, around 587 is when all of this was happening, 587 BC. So a little bit more than 500 years before the time of Jesus. The first temple is completely destroyed, which I guess I haven't read yet. Let's get to that. Nebuzaradan, the captain of the bodyguard, a servant of the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem. Verse 9. He burned the house of the Lord, the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem. Every great house he burned down. All the army of the Chaldeans who were with the captain of the guard broke down the walls around Jerusalem. Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carried into exile the rest of the people who were left in the city, and the deserters who had defected to the king of Babylon, all the rest of the population. But the captain of the guard left some of the poorest people of the land to be vine dressers and tillers of the soil. So there were actually 2 deportations. The first one took all of the really powerful people. The second one took the rest of anybody worthwhile, left the poor people behind. And in the second one, they burned it down. They burned down the king's house and the temple, all of it. Everything was burned down. Verse 13, the bronze pillars that were in the house of the Lord, as well as the stands and the bronze sea that were in the house of the Lord, the Chaldeans broke in pieces and carried the bronze to Babylon. They took away the pots, the shovels, the snuffers, the dishes for incense, and all the bronze vessels used in the temple service, as well as the fire pans and the basins. What was made of gold, the captain of the guard took away for the gold, and what was made of silver for the silver. As for the 2 pillars, the one sea, and the stands which Solomon had made for the house of the Lord, the bronze of all these vessels was beyond weighing. The height of the one pillar was 18 cubits, and on it was a bronze capital. The height of the capital was 3 cubits, so 21 cubits, which a cubit's about 1.5 feet, so 33 feet worth of bronze. A very tall, 2 very tall, heavy pillars. The height of the capital was 3 cubits. Lattice work and pomegranates, all of bronze, were on the capital all around. The second pillar had the same with the lattice work. Verse 18, the captain of the guard took the chief priest, Sariah, the second priest, Zephaniah, and the 3 guardians of the threshold. From the city he took an officer who had been in command of the soldiers, and 5 men of the king's council who were found in the city. The secretary, who was the commander of the army, who mustered the people of the land, and 60 men of the people of the land who were found in the city. Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, took them and brought them to the king of Babylon at Riblah. The king of Babylon struck them down and put them to death at Riblah in the land of Hamath. So Judah went into exile out of its land. So anybody worthwhile is shipped out, and all of the officials are killed. Verse 22, he appointed Gedaliah, son of Ahikam, son of Sheaphan, as governor over the people who remained in the land of Judah, whom King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon had left. So they left a few poor people, and they've appointed a governor. Verse 23, now when all the captains of the forces and their men heard that the king of Babylon had appointed Gedaliah as governor, they came with their men to Gedaliah at Mizpah, namely, Ishmael son of Nethaniah, Johanan son of Kareath, Sariah son of Tanhumeth, the Netophathite, and Jaazaniah son of the Maacathite. Gedaliah swore to them and their men, saying, do not be afraid because of the Chaldean officials. Live in the land, serve the king of Babylon, and it shall be well with you. But in the 7th month, Ishmael son of Nethaniah son of Elishama, of the royal family, came with 10 men. They struck down Gedaliah so that he died, along with the Judeans and Chaldeans who were with him at Mizpah. Then all the people, high and low, and the captains of the forces set out and went to Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldeans. So there's been a rebellion, they killed their governor, but then they all run away to Egypt because they know that the Chaldeans and the Babylonians are going to come get them. Verse 27, in the 37th year of the exile of King Jehoiachin of Judah, in the 12th month, on the 27th day of the month, King Evil-Merodach of Babylon, in the year that he began to reign, released King Jehoiachin from Judah from prison. He spoke kindly to him and gave him a seat above the other seats of the kings who were with him in Babylon. So Jehoiachin put aside his prison clothes. Every day of his life he dined regularly in the king's presence. For his allowance, a regular allowance was given him by the king, a portion every day as long as he lived. So after King Nebuchadnezzar dies, his son takes over and allows King Jehoiachin to eat at his table and to eat with them. And it says the date of his death is unknown, and the idea that it's not going to be like this forever. But that is the end of 2 Kings. So tomorrow, or next time we meet, the next session, we will begin 1 Chronicles. Until then, let's see, application. You need to do what God tells you to do, and if you don't do what God tells you to do, it could possibly go very poorly with you. And there are some forces in the world that are awfully hard to stand up against, and we're not meant to. And thirdly, that God does remember his people and brings them back. And so there's this idea of this hope that they will not be in Babylon forever. Eventually, if they want to, they can return to the promised land. And now may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord look at you with favor and give you peace. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Go in peace. Like, subscribe, comment. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you next time.